5:30, so we will get this meeting called to order. Tonight is the regular board meeting of the Centerville Community School District School Board, held at 5:30 p.m. January 13, 2025 in the Centerville Administration Office. We get a roll call, please.
Berger.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Efren. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Thomas. Wiskus.
Here.
All right, I'd like to welcome all visitors in the room. Does not look like we have any public forum this evening. So with that, we would take a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Same sign. Next up, approval of minutes from previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. No old business, so we'll move into new business. Looks like we have a student representative with us.
Best part of the meeting. Come on up right here, kiddo.
Hey, so I'm from CHS and fill in for Kinley Harvey. So some of the stuff we've had going on recently, so student council, they did their Operation Santa fundraisers recently. So that'd be like the cookie eating contest, cookie decorating contest. We did Chuck-a-Duck at the basketball games, and that raised $1,385. So we met our goal. And then for winter sports, we've had wrestling. The girls got fourth. Allen got fourth this weekend. And for basketball, the girls have got a record of 8-1. They won all three of their games this week. Bowling meets every Thursday. As far as other activities, the spring play is coming up. Speech has started, so they had their first competition this weekend, and then on the 20th is the group districts. And there's brand new mock trial and model UN teams that are getting started. So FFA, Tierney Lane in charge of FFA, she's selling strawberries. And yeah, that's about it.
What's on the boys basketball?
They've got a record of 5-5.
Very good.
What about
I
the
think we saw a
strawberries?
really
Are these
good
strawberry
win
plants
this
for like
weekend
actual
as well.
strawberries?
Springboard.
I'm not really sure. That'd probably be a question for Tierney.
Ah, okay.
So I have one
Thank you.
question.
You forgot about the question part. Cross-examination.
This is just because it's for the students only, but something to food for thought for next year, and no pun intended, but I'm a little hurt that I wasn't included in this cookie eating contest.
Oh, you know, they were looking for eaters too.
I was there when there was some decorating going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was banking on, I could have had like 20.
Yeah?
So, yeah,
I
yeah.
think teachers won it. There's a couple of teachers that won the cookie eating contest.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does this look like? How big's the team?
It was two people per team. Like they set up the stage or a table on the stage in the auditorium, and
Who
everybody
were the
just
teachers
like,
on the team that
We
won?
we should
I
have a
can't
board team.
remember.
We should have
There
a
was
board
like
team next year.
We'll get a couple of them.
And this
Sounds
sounds
good.
good. I'm
Yeah,
signing
make
this
a
up.
note. We want the board to have a team next year.
got it.
I'll let the CHS administration know that we're very interested in crashing the cookie contest.
Oh, yeah.
Your team.
We could do some damage.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
We'd
have-
almost have to give them a head start.
We would, just to be supported.
So,
Thank you.
and I don't know if it was before or after the last meeting, because I wasn't here, but you also just got an award yourself, didn't you?
I don't.
Well, she was on the, if you go at 5 and 2, she's been on the sign for being volunteer of the month, I
So
believe.
that, did you,
Yeah.
did you student of the
yeah.
month?
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
Well,
Oh,
You get so many.
I don't know, something. That's awesome.
Daily occurrence, so that's awesome, that's awesome though. Anybody else have any questions?
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Kind of got a sneak peek of the mock trial things this past weekend, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Cox, and that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see that for
Yeah.
our kiddos.
It's gonna be awesome.
I'm still working on my oldest, he's like, I don't know, so I'm gonna try to
18 kids.
brute force him.
18 kids.
That's awesome, well, thank you for coming in, Kim. I
Yep,
appreciate that.
thanks.
Finley's gonna be a rock star at it too, I can tell already.
All right, take care, guys.
See you guys, have a good one.
All right. Consideration and action on a couple of late open enrollment applications.
Yes.
Those are on your table. We've got one request coming in, one request going out.
Yeah, so the inn is a late request. This student had been open enrolled to Centerville prior to this year, decided to go to their home school this year. Things didn't quite work out as expected. They'd like to come back to us, so they're requesting to come back for second semester. And then the out, my understanding, has been homeschooled and has decided to start attending an in-person school. And this is the school, that's the school that they're requesting. I believe it has something to do with where somebody works or something, and the reason it has a good cause is because a change in residence for the student, that would cause them to be in a different district than they would have been at Count Day in December. So both make a lot of sense to agree with and help it out.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item C, approve at-risk dropout grant application for 2025-2026. Okay.
Mostly her, but I can back you up. There's not a lot to say, this is just getting our dropout at-risk money, which helps pay for our student advisors, counselors, assistant principals. This pays for a lot of those positions that are not like in the classroom, but that help our kids to be more successful in the classroom. So you think about where we work, a big effort that we've made as a board is to expand that amount and the role of counselors in our district. This is the fund that helps make that work out for us. Did I kind of say enough about that? Do you think that makes sense, or did I hit anything weird with it?
No.
We have some really fun days that we call categorical days, where Lisa and I get together and make sure that we've coded our categoricals correctly. And this is one of those very important categoricals for us.
Yep, this is also a line on the UAB report, so we want to make sure we always request the maximum amount. And that has to be in the motion. You have $496,895, so that's what we're requesting, that's our maximum.
We are lucky that we're a district that gets to have the maximum at-risk dropout prevention number. There are actually varying percentages that you're allowed to do around the state, and we're one of the districts that's at the max. So we get the max amount per pupil that a district can get, which is really kind of a good thing. It makes a decent difference.
Any further questions from anybody, or entertain a motion? And that does have to include the dollar amount, correct?
I make a motion that we approve the at-risk dropout grant application for 2025-2026 for the modified supplemental amount of $496,195.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Item D, approve driver education agreement with Training Wheels.
So this is our driver education that we offer as a district. There is an increase in fee per pupil this year. As Lisa and I talked through that, we think that's probably pretty fair because there's costs for gas and nothing gets cheaper. So it still seems well within our within a fair number for our kids.
How many kids do we have using that? Going through that? That's a good question.
I looked at last year's numbers and we had, I believe it was around 30, well, I mean, I guess I don't know the total amount, I just know the total amount that we pay for, I guess, so.
Yeah. So that sound about right to you, around 30?
Well, it's 30 of the ones that we pay for,
Yeah.
so I don't know the ones that are paying themselves,
Self pay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So what's the cost per kiddo?
Let's see, it's in here.
It is
375.
Okay, thank you.
187.50 reduced.
I had to look it up.
Yep. So we pay for the free students and the reduced students, and then there's the others payment on their own.
It's an equity item for us when we do that.
And I think that's, like I said, I don't think that's the program we use with Aiden, I could be wrong, but that's right in line with where we were at.
I know we used it with our Katie, it was really good, because I couldn't stand driving with her when she was learning, so it was nice to have somebody else do that.
I'm trying to help coach a kid, let alone trying to teach him to drive.
Yeah. We just about ran into somebody's garage when I tried to take her driving, so.
We had around 45 Centerville students last year.
About 45.
How did the others get their licenses? That's not a full class.
Here, what?
So parents
talking
can
to people
teach
who do that.
and
I looked into
get
doing
them
that.
through and get their license without having to go through. I didn't know they could do that.
Passed 2 years ago.
That's why.
Motion to
There's a motion and a second to approve the agreement with Training Wheels. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item E, update and approval of the teacher leadership and compensation procedures.
So I think technically this probably didn't need to come to the board, but I really want you to be aware of kind of changes in the TLC world. Our fund doesn't always keep up with what we've been doing. In fact, it's falling quite quickly behind right now because we had a workout plan early on in the TLC plan for our district. Not all the positions got filled, so a big pot of money was amassed, and typically you don't leave those sitting out there, so you work to get those out of categoricals and have as much in your UAB instead. So we're looking to kind of get things kind of back in line. What you see in here won't talk about the financial side of it, but we are looking at making some changes in the lead teacher pay for our lead teacher positions and reducing the number of lead teacher positions, which would give us about a savings of $48,000 towards our $400,000 that we're looking to do. We're gonna still be one of the higher paid lead teacher roles probably in the area. After that, as I talked to other superintendents, the ones that are in the 2,500 range are looking to reduce their pay this year. So as we back off from 4,500, they're looking to back down from their 2,500. So, and that could be in our future, depending on what the state decides they want to do with funding. What's in here is mostly getting the plan, the documented plan, to actually reflect what we're doing with our staff. Because when this plan was originally written, it was when TLC was a grant that you had to apply for. And TLC has changed a lot in that number of years since then, and it's changed a lot here. So there's strikeout and italics and everything, trying to kind of get everything up to date. Some of the biggest changes would be we actually have in a number of places moved from just singular induction coach to induction coaching, because should we have our induction coach decide not to continue at some point, we want the ability to look at whether it's more cost effective in the future to use our building coaches to do the induction coaching, so that we're not paying for a fourth additional body and further depleting the general fund. So that gives us that flexibility. You'll see, I'm trying to think of anything that's real exciting. The interview process in this for the positions, the application process is a little bit different. We, instead of a video, because we've heard a lot of feedback from teachers who have applied, that the video, sorry, is more of a stressor and less of a, I'm prepared to talk about how I teach and how I can lead. So what we decided with the TLC committee, we've met twice to kind of come to some new conclusions that are in here, is each person who's applying for either a lead teacher or a head coaching position will bring a lesson plan. And they're gonna need to talk about their assessment, how they know if the lesson plan is going well, what they might do if something were going poorly. We want them to be able to reflect on their instruction and be able to talk the shop of teaching to the interview committee. Because each of those positions, but particularly the lead teacher positions, aren't so much about, what are you doing every day in the classroom, though that's a good indicator of this. It's about how can you help our building to grow, because what their whole responsibility is to go to those monthly meetings and the before school and after school planning meetings So these folks will have to be able to demonstrate the ability to recognize good instruction and to talk about how to provide good instruction, how to teach other people to get that. The people who apply for the head coaching positions, like the Paige Warren position, the Jetty Durham position, the Jen Ben's position, how could I forget Jen Ben's name there, sorry. That we're asking them to also bring with them a 6 to 7 minute micro PD. So then we'll pick a topic in education. We really want it to be kind of connected to some of the district's initiatives, but it could be something like using technology in your classroom effectively or something to that effect. And to provide for the interview committee a 6 to 7 minute PD so we can see if they know how to interact with adult learners. Because there's a big difference between teaching your classroom and then teaching your peers. And one thing I kind of joked with the committee, I said, yeah, I know that every year at the back to school meeting, because I look out across the room, I'm like, all those people know more than me, knows more than me, knows more than me, and you have to be able to kind of get past that a little bit, like the intimidation of these people know what's going on and know how to build a connection with adult learners so that they're engaged. So we believe that we'll actually probably have a little bit more quality interview process for these positions because we're digging more into what we want them to be able to do rather than being a really good technology organizer. So other than that, it's just kind of clearly aligning those things out, making sure that's all set up nicely in there. There's really not a lot that's a big change. It's just rewording things, eliminating some items that the state doesn't require any longer. The good part is, coming out of this, we will have a really nice document for our website. The bad part is, when we go to upload the changes to the state, it's all just a wall of text in one box, another box, and a set of check boxes. So the state won't really care too much what it looks like because all the formatting and beauty of it seems to go away, but at least we have a good document that tells us what we're trying to do and accomplish for our teachers.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, item F. Approval of baseball field sharing agreement with Indian Hills. That unfortunately was not available from the attorney before the packet came out.
Right, and I want to apologize to you. In the 28E, there are, in the 28E, there will be one red line added to this. So I would ask that if you approve it pending this red line working. He just wants to add an item on separability that doesn't allow for separability to happen during a season. Technically, you really can't because you have to provide the year's notice.
Right.
But he felt he would be a little more comfortable having that spelled out. For this item, we could not use Allers and Cooney for the lawyer to review because there is an ethical conflict because we use Allers and Cooney and Indian Hills does. So we used Jeff Baxter with Dickinson Law Firm in Des Moines. That's who Allers and Cooney typically recommends for contract work if they can't clear an ethical conflict. His first look through the contract, he's comfortable with it. He said it would do the trick for us. It would be fine for us. He just felt adding that would be good. He also had a couple typos he saw in the follow-up part, the maintenance agreement. For example, I think it says it starts on the 1st of July 2030, and maybe there was a spot where it said it ended in 2025 or something to that effect. So he just wanted to make sure to redline that for them so that it's correct before we actually sign.
I have, I guess, concern on the 2080 on page 2,
Okay.
4B, scheduling. I don't, particularly, I guess for our district, I don't like how that's worded. That's basically saying they could, if they wanted to, say we're not practicing until 10 o'clock on Sunday night.
Right, just for the record, so it reads, the college will determine the hours of operation of the facility and have control over the scheduling and use of the facility, provided, however, that the district shall have priority of use over all users of the facility other than the college. The college and the district shall cooperate to establish a reasonable schedule for use of the facility by the district for school purposes. The college shall not require the district to pay any rent or other charges for use of the facility.
So the only word in there in your concern is reasonable. Who defines reasonable?
And unfortunately, with lawyers, you run into that word reasonable quite a bit, and you could argue over the word reasonable, but our current agreement with them, which is a non-agreement, we haven't run into that being an issue. It hasn't been a problem for us, and we literally have zero protection, not even the protection of it has to be reasonable. And I think
There's reason for concern.
I mean, it's a contract. I mean, if they wanted to, if we sign this contract and they say, no, this week, you're not practicing until this time, you know, for whatever reason, and I guess I don't like that they have control over when we're practicing or when we're using the facility. If we're entering into a shared agreement here,
We
it
see
should
any
be
reason-
collaborative.
Do you see any reason why they would say we couldn't use the field at a time that's not been used by them?
I don't, but it doesn't say that.
I haven't seen a reason that I'm worried about that, to be honest with you, but I do understand what you're saying. I don't know how you could put that into lawyerese better to get that across. That's not something that that Jeff had looked through it was a concern to him. Cause I would assume there's no contract where the owner of a facility is gonna say, you've got control, use it however you want, whenever you want. I would think.
I think what I'm hearing you
It's
say
a
is,
collaboration. It needs to be a collaboration.
So it's in that penultimate sentence there, the second to last sentence, shall cooperate to establish a reasonable schedule. Is there a wording in there that we would prefer over that?
here's what I'm hearing is, they've got first right because they own the facility.
Right.
And so, what I think you're saying, or the way I'm interpreting it is, you don't want to see any restriction for us to use it when they're not using it.
Correct.
So the wording is somewhere around that.
Yeah, I mean, if we're paying for that time frame to use it,
Yeah,
I mean,
they can't, yeah. We just don't, there are no restrictions if they're not on their practice schedule.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm trying to think.
You're just being proactive.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I just, it's contract law and they hold all the marbles on this.
So I have another concern on
Yeah.
concessions, because in the
Yeah.
2080, it doesn't address concessions, in the rent it does.
Mhm.
So if you go by the rental agreement in 2030, we have to buy concession items from them.
Mhm.
But it doesn't address that between now and then.
Okay.
So, but my real question on that is, what cost are we buying the concessions? Are they buying something from,
Are they gaining? off
yeah, are they
percent?
gaining on, or are we getting it at their
Yeah.
true cost? Because if they're making money off that concession, I don't think that's right.
Okay.
And so I guess
I wonder if that's in line with the contract that they've signed already for a concessions dealer, that they probably have to have that in any of their facilities.
And then I can
So
see that.
if we would host somebody and give them the ability to do concessions in our facility, we would be required, because of our Mahaska agreement, that they'd have to buy either through Mahaska or through us for their beverages.
And that may be the case, but I'm just, it's not in the 2080.
Yeah, so it's not governed until 2030 at
Right.
this point.
So, and that's another question I had. With the 28E, I understand, everything is copacetic for 2025. I guess I'm confused on the rental not starting until 2030.
Right. So the 28E governs the first 5 years, where the rental after that governs years 6 through 10.
Well, I don't know anybody else that's gonna sign a rental agreement 5 years down the road, so for me, and you guys, obviously, for me, I'm not comfortable making a decision on this tonight. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think there's still some things and some further clarification that I won't actually have time to go through this and read. My opinion, you know, we've gotta have baseball, we know that, and, you know, unfortunately, our backs are against the wall. As this administration and this board has had, many handshake and gentlemen's agreements of years past are just that, so we've gotta figure something out. But I do, personally, I would rather have, until the next meeting to actually have time to read through this and get with Mr. Taylor and Mr. Thomas to kind of bounce some of those questions, concerns back to Indian Hills.
And I think, I will be honest with you, in talking to the lawyer, this is a pretty fair agreement in both directions on that.
We
So
were
I
also
can't
told
promise you that we're gonna see changes in language, because I think at some point, if you're the owner of a facility, you're gonna have a standard for what you expect for your facility.
I get that, but I
That's a
think
big
there's
deal.
some things that aren't addressed.
Sure.
There's things that aren't addressed, and I personally coming in and having 20 minutes to review $250,000 of district money to make a vote on, I think it's, are we gonna eventually?
So I think at some
Probably.
point, we've hired a lawyer, we've paid a lawyer to review a contract. We've talked about this for 4 months at the board table.
Okay,
And we've hired a lawyer to review the contract and see if the contract is amenable to the district. I would be totally table it and address it in January, on January 27th, but I'm gonna tell you, there probably will still be things on January 27th that aren't exactly 100% what we want. I just have to give the reality of that situation.
And I think I see the reality too. I mean, this has been discussed so much where, we know building the field and everything is just so darn expensive. This is a decent deal. Right?
It at least has language that protects us in some places, and that was some of the things that Jeff had said, that as he looked through it, we had enough protections in a lot of places. The only protection, like I said, that he truly felt we needed to add, and while it's kind of outlined here, he just really wanted to have a red line that made it very clear that we couldn't be terminated mid-season. And I think that's a fair point. And I can take these questions back to Jeff and have him address those and tell me what I can tell my board to make us more comfortable with some of these items. And I would ask if we do table it, take a few minutes between, now and the next handful of days or something, and share with me what those concerns are. Because, I will need to ask him the answers to those. I won't be able to give those answers. We're gonna need to hire him to give us those answers.
I think I'm comfortable with, going through with it right now.
I am too.
take a motion, a second.
I would like to see the addition of, we cannot be terminated mid-season. That would be a disaster.
Yeah.
We have to have protection there.
And I don't believe it would hurt us to table it to the 27th, if that's what the board decides to do. But I just really, I really need us to make sure we've got all of the things that bother us there for Jeff to address between now and the 27th. Because while we're good for this season, we need to get this lined up to know that we've got long-term security for our baseball program.
And
Is this,
And the fact that we're in this position to have to do this is bothersome anyway. I mean, it's hard, it's a hard one to.
Yeah.
Builds
Yeah.
community, that's what it does.
It hasn't been a fun process to begin with,
Yeah.
and I know we're all kind of tired from the process, and I apologize for the lateness of getting it to you. I was really hoping the red lines would be in time to be able to send it to you with those, and then when it hadn't come on Friday, I was hoping that maybe I'd get it over the weekend and be able to get it to you, and I actually still don't, when I checked my email before coming in here, I have the red line added from the attorney at Dickinson, but I'm confident that he'll get it to me. He seems like a pretty upright, he was really good as we talked through it, and we met to look at the agreement, so I'm confident he'll get it taken care of. And it didn't sound like there was anything that was gonna be terribly egregious that Indian Hills would balk at from what they said. So if we'd rather see it with the red line, I can bring it back with that, and I can try to ask those questions and see. I just know lawyer ease sometimes is that way, sometimes lawyer East sucks, and they're good people when you need them. But sometimes the things that they have to say to protect all parties don't sound too good.
I think for my concerns, because I have one more too, but I think
Yeah.
as long as they're addressed, and if that's what the lawyer that we're hiring says, okay,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah,
okay, I can go with that, but, I'd rather have them addressed before I agree to,
sure.
anything.
Mhm.
I guess
What's the other one?
the other one is, this says facility, is all it talks about. Does that mean the main field, the practice field, the batting cages, what does that mean?
So does it define facility? Let's look at that.
I didn't see where it did.
College is the owner of a baseball facility and desires to make improvements to said facility. Yeah, you're right, I guess it just says facility. And then it says herein as facility.
But we didn't know what they're doing.
I've seen some ideas from him, some of the information from him, and there'll be some seat changes, a lot of lighting change from this. Concession stands will be different. So it's, what he's shown me so far looks really nice, and I think it's really a matter of how much they raise determines just how nice it ends up being, because I think there's still some raising to be done to get to some of the goals. The last company that they went to lowered the cost significantly to get what they were getting from the first company. There's definitely, if they end up raising more, definitely some things that probably could be even nicer.
I mean, we go with the practice.
Some electronic signing that looks good, and
What about the practice field? 'Cause I don't know.
there's work to be done to that. In this agreement, our JV teams are to play on the main field, so the practice field would still be for our middle school team. I believe we still have the language, because in every other sport, it's basically, the freshman team is called JV too, so I can't see why that wouldn't be the case.
I don't see where that says that in the contract.
And it doesn't, and I'm sorry, for $250,000.
It does. So if you look-
They should all be playing on Pat Doherty Field. We had two people that were interested, everyone dismissed him.
Well, wait a minute, I think Mark still had it.
No, there is a line here that says it's available for varsity games, practices, and junior varsity
Right,
games.
but not
Yeah.
what field.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So that's, again, defining facility
What
at that
facility,
point,
are we
yeah.
allowed to use the batting cages, are we
Right.
allowed to use,
Batting cages are in there.
so,
It actually says to use batting cages, not do pepper games.
well, that's over on the other one, that's on the rental.
Okay, so that's a good point.
So-
It seems like there's more detail in
Yeah.
the do's and don'ts of the rental
Then
versus.
the
Yeah.
2080, yeah.
So under the 2080 agreement, we can do everything that this says not to do,
That's a fair point.
so,
That's a
I
fair
mean,
point.
So, Mike, am I hearing you say that you want some of the rental agreement language in the 2080?
I guess I don't understand why we have to have two separate documents. I
So to
mean,
govern different time periods is the reason for that.
well, but they're,
But why are we signing a rental agreement for 2030? I mean, if I were moving tomorrow, I'm not gonna, if I'm not moving
Well,
for
I
5 years.
think it does guarantee your maintenance cost, because I would assume that they're gonna be higher than that.
well, but it says it could be anywhere from 10,000 to 12,000, and that's just an estimate, because it's 20% of the cost. And the rental agreement one,
So I will tell you the reason, another reason that it's split in two is from this board. I had heard it, and I continually heard, and Mike and I talked about a 10-year agreement was too long for us to commit to. So the purpose of, and you'll notice in the rental agreement, we specifically worked to put in the ability to get out of the rental agreement with a year's notice. So if we got to 2030 and we said, you know what, actually somebody gave us a baseball field, we don't need to rent anymore. We give them a year's notice and we're out of that. So this got split. There is a reason for that, and it was to try to let them have the security to know that they had a tenant for a period of time, because financially, there's a struggle to get built what needs, not a struggle, I shouldn't say that, that's not fair. But financially, it helps if you have a tenant to build the things that they'd like to do to give their school and our community that nice field. But we wanted the flexibility to say, but if we wanna go our own way, we still can.
2080 gives us that within 3 years.
Sure. So if we would instead extend the 2080 to 10 years,
I don't want to extend it.
we would have to then give 3 years' notice to get out.
I know.
That makes sense when you explain, to me it makes sense now when you explain it.
And I'll admit, I'd forgotten that step along the way, until we got talking into it here.
I just think,
I've
The two
tried
are so-
really hard to put all the things we've said at the table, we want in
Yeah.
this agreement, into this agreement, because we've got a lot of things that we really want. And I think that the trick that we have to have is, there's two sides to a negotiation, and
I don't think this is much of a negotiation, but I'll stop.
I'm just saying, I think there's gonna be a few items that we might not think are 100% our direction. And maybe we're not close enough
It's
yet,
fine.
maybe we
It's their
still need
property, I
time,
understand
yeah.
that, and then,
I think between the two documents, it's a little messy.
Okay, yep, and we can work on asking the lawyer if that can be cleaned up a little bit. I'll probably use the tape here to figure out the best way to express those concerns to the
Yeah,
lawyer.
I guess, are these rules,
What supersedes what,
are these rules in effect when we sign this?
right?
Or, you know, I guess, and what we can use as far as facilities, and those are my concerns that I.
The definition of facility is a fair question that I think we probably could get some leverage out of having it defined for
I mean, I
us.
know what I assume. but-
Yeah,
Right.
and maybe that's what's been worked on there, and I'll admit that's probably from me too, because I didn't see that as a concern as I looked at it. But that's a fair point. It's a fair point. So with that, if you choose to table, I'll work again with Jeff and with Matt to try to meet these concerns and bring back perhaps a more bulked up agreement to the table. Or if the agreement that is available to us is the agreement on the table, we'll have to decide if we decide to take it after that. I tend to believe in talking to Matt the last few times, I think he wants to get across the finish line on this as much as I do, because I think both of us want it off our desk. Because there's not a great win for anybody in this. So I think he'll probably work with us, because all these things sound like pretty small things that I don't think we're gonna have any trouble getting through.
I would suggest tabling it until we get
Okay.
at least some of the concerns, whether they're fixable or not.
What I'm hearing is some of it's language cleaned up is what it is.
Yeah, I think so. To me, it is. I guess.
So some of the biggest concerns, scheduling, you wanna make sure that they're not gonna sit there and say, well, we're practicing at 10 o'clock at night. Definition of facility, I mean, are we gonna get surprised and say, oh, no, varsity, you're playing on this practice field?
Right.
I mean, do I think that's gonna happen? No. But we're to this point, and.
Well, we have to try to
You
protect
can't,
ourselves.
yeah, you can't assume when it comes to the contract. And then the rental agreement, is that inclusive with the 2080, or is it?
In defense of their attorney and crafting facility to be broad, we probably have, what would be the items? And I just wanna put us in this position.
Because this one says-
I wanna help you see from their attorney's perspective a little bit. If you were to list the items that we would use as the facility, what do we think those would be?
I'd say outdoor field, the practice field, the batting cages, press box, bleachers, restrooms, I mean,
Good, so there's our items.
Parking lot.
Where are we gonna park? That's the,
Yeah.
see, and I think when we talk about a facility, we're talking about using a facility. And I get what you're saying, wanting to define what field for what games, and I'm perfectly okay with that. We've had good conversations with that. We've had good conversation about improvements to the practice field for our middle school games. But I just think when we over define things, sometimes we put ourselves in a position where, oh no, nobody thought that was a thing, and then we could be in a different spot. That being said, I believe in going after having gone through this, that if we did end up in that position, the people we're working with there would help us get what we need for our kids. Because, you know, so many of our kids end up becoming Indian Hills students. And I don't think the desire is there to make it where suddenly we get an uh-oh and we can't take care of our kids.
So what I hear you're saying is that if you start to list out all the things, if you leave something out, we may not have access.
There certainly would be the ability to say you didn't ask for that.
no, but, so, on the rental contract one,
It does spell.
it says facilities of the sports complex, it says baseball field, the
Yep.
game field. and the practice field, and the restrooms, and the press box, and the concession, and parking, and the rental.
So if I had to guess, and I'm just guessing, if I had to guess how this worked on their side, and I haven't asked Matt this, I'll bet 28E was written by a lawyer, rental agreement was written by a maintenance guy. $5. I can't really bet $5, that would be illegal, so I'm not gonna do that. But I would tell you, I
I'm
would guess
gonna
that the
say,
maintenance guy wrote
instead
that
of
because he
maintenance
gets
guy,
it more clearly.
Somebody in Indian Hills, it was a non-lawyer,
Yeah.
Indian Hills employee, I would,
So whereas a lawyer is gonna look at, you know, what protects everybody, all that. Maintenance guy or athletic director maybe is saying, okay, what are the things they're gonna need to make this function? And maybe we find some some athletic director or maintenance guy things to put into the 2080. But that probably also means we need to have some lawyer things in the rental agreement then, to make it right.
I see where you're coming from, Mark, on all of it, wanting to get it done. I personally, I just want those addressed.
And I'm not saying I wanna rush through it for that, I really don't, I think some of the concerns, I don't believe Indian Hills wants to hurt us. And I really believe that some of these items, while we'll have it in a contract to protect us, I don't believe that they wanna hurt us, and I don't think that it's gonna be an issue that's gonna cause us heartburn down the road. But I get what you're saying, and that's fair. If you look at every contract as though it truly is a contract, you have to have that language to have your protection on that. That's fair.
So we have to give a year's notice to get out.
To terminate, once we get into the second 5.
And so is there something in there, and we kind of talked about this before, that they have to?
I think that it was either
You know, this
party
is
is the way that it was
mid-season
worded.
business.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So if either party chooses to terminate this contract, they can do so at any time by providing 1 year advance notice in
Okay.
writing.
All right.
And so the 28E does fully encompass 5 years, like it's, I don't even know if there is a separate, I can't remember, severability. If any provision of this agreement shall be held illegal, invalid, no, that's not the one. There was some severability. Oh, termination. Termination for cause. We could terminate within we have to give 30 days to clear a breach. Or either party has to give 30 days to clear a breach, after which time, then we can move termination of the agreement in the 2080. Termination without cause, 1 year prior to the effective date of termination, we have to give notice. Yeah, I mean, so I guess it's actually kind of the same language on terminability as far as that goes for us. And again, I really truly believe termination without cause is probably not even a clause that would end up being used in this situation. They very much do, it benefits them to have our kids out there, just like it benefits us to have some place for our kids to be. But I understand it hasn't always been a fun process to go through this, so it doesn't hurt to take our time and make sure we're comfortable.
I'll echo that, kind of wherever you were saying there though, but I do wanna make it very clear in the meeting here that I don't think Indian Hills is trying to take advantage of
Yeah,
us
no.
in any way, and I understand being protected, but I would like to see us work together moving forward. And getting it cleaned up's fine.
And it looks like we're close. Would you guys agree we're close
Yes.
Oh, okay.
to the finish line here? And I think I can work with Matt and that attorney from Dickinson and get us across the finish line for the 27th if that's what we choose to do. I don't remember, do you have to vote for a table? I think there's a proposal to table. My Robert's rules is a little rusty. I believe you can just table it then after a motion to table.
It's just kind of
don't look at me, that's a.
Like I said, do you
That's a
remember?
ruling from the chair, so it's not.
I don't think we need a motion to table.
No, we'll just put this down for old business.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's how it works, right?
Write this for old business to pick
So-
up on the 27th.
And as soon as I get a response with the red lines, I'll make sure that I get that out to everybody via email, so you've got that.
Item F is tabled until the 27th. Takes us to item G, Approval of personnel business procedures.
Pretty standard. I think there's not a lot that's, I mean, everything is exciting with, we're hiring new people. That is very
Yes.
exciting.
Yes.
Because they're working with our kids. For example, our new cross-country, awesome team of coaches, Janae Crabtree and Ryan Wagner working together, I think is gonna be really cool. Those are two really neat teachers. If you haven't had a chance to meet them, I highly recommend it. So, Stephanie Sargent's gonna do some softball coaching this summer for middle school for us. Just some really, really neat folks.
Who's this Rich Parker guy?
Oh, yeah, that is an exciting one too, yeah.
And
Honestly, the whole list is
Can we
really
pull
good.
that one, maybe we need to pull that one out. for
Oh, okay.
discussion. No.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Mike, did you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Financial reports, Lisa,
Well, these are just your standard.
nothing exciting?
Yeah.
Motion to
Boring this
approve,
time.
pay the bills.
Second.
Motion second to pay the bills, all in favor?
Aye.
Bills can be paid. Mr. T,
Hey, first I want to apologize. I feel like the last couple of weeks I've been coming from break. I feel like I haven't communicated as effectively with all of you. I've been battling illness since Christmas time, and feel like I'm kind of back in the saddle. So hopefully I'll be able to communicate out with y'all a little bit more than a really short weekly update that I could spend the last couple of weeks. So apologize for that. Excited to get back in the saddle, digging in on things. A reminder, our calendar process in board policy does require that we have a calendar committee. So we'll be meeting with that calendar committee soon. I have some potential calendars built for that, but just that process is coming. It's that wonderful season. If you want to tick people off in the world, the best thing to do is to build a school calendar. So that's just kind of how it works in every school district and every town. And it's kind of a joke when you meet with superintendents. Oh, are you doing calendar? Yeah, enjoy. So, but it's good. Actually, it falls really nicely. The holidays do on next year. So knock on wood, whatever we do, we may have a pretty nice calendar to look at. I've noticed something, and it really hit this weekend actually, while I was up in Marshalltown with a 6th grade youth basketball group, and there was a 5th grade group there, and I think did we have a 4th grade group up there maybe too? And I don't know if you've noticed, but we've had a real explosion of youth sporting activities in our community this year, and I'm really excited about the number of parents that are getting engaged in helping their kids to develop, not because I'm about the wins that are gonna probably come from that for our high school teams down the road, but you just think about the active engagement going on and how those kids will likely be involved in activities when they get to high school, which we've kind of committed as a board to making sure that activities are strong for our kids. And I just think it's really exciting that that's starting to permeate out into our community. And more people are saying, yeah, why wouldn't I go ahead and start a volleyball club, or why wouldn't I do this? And I'm really excited to see that and the excitement from our students out there doing all these things. So, like I said, I'm kind of boring this week, so.
you don't need to apologize,
I'm
because
sorry.
you were sick, but you were on break, so you're actually entitled to a break.
Fair enough.
Board member takeaways, we'll start with Carol.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I thought that was a great discussion we had about the baseball field. And I like what you said, and I want to echo that in that we are so grateful and think to have a facility like that. You know, I don't know how long we've been down there, but it's just really special. So I appreciate the opportunity to continue to use it.
Okay.
You're going the wrong direction.
I'm making up
Hey,
the rules.
he's in the chair there.
Wow, okay.
He's using the power.
Yeah, no, that's okay, no, that's fine, so, I should have probably helped you out a little bit there on the table, and that's a ruling for the chair.
Gotcha.
So on something like that, so that's okay. I just think from, and I don't wanna be sounds critical. This is a lot to absorb just before me.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think that's part of what I was struggling with, is we're going through all this. But I do, I think my takeaway from this is that there was some good, healthy discussion from the board, and we don't always sit and have some of those discussions. And so I know it's frustrating for you,
No,
because you put so much time
Yeah.
into this, but to me, it was refreshing to have some good, healthy board discussion on something like this, so just from an interaction standpoint, so.
yeah.
To me, it's more about the interaction than the topic.
Don?
I thought when I look at the new people being hired and then the people who resign, I imagine that is a lot of work that goes into getting people when somebody puts, at the new year, like I noticed one of them did. And I appreciate the people who do that.
We've got some good leaders working on
Yeah.
that.
I just think that's really good if they can get that done and get people, and sometimes you probably gotta talk people into doing things too, because they're doing a lot of other stuff and then they have to go something else too. And I remember, when I taught at Ottumwa, when you're a brand new teacher, well, I wasn't brand new, I taught 2 years before I went to Ottumwa. And all the old coaches didn't want to coach anymore. So they asked, oh, would you do football? Would you do volleyball? I don't know anything about volleyball. It doesn't make any difference. And so you do a lot of different coaching, which is good. And you get to know the kids and everything, but I just remember that, and I know sometimes you have to kind of talk people into things.
Tom sparked something I should have said to my superintendent before tonight.
Okay, we'll give you the floor back.
Sorry and thank you. Adrian Howard, 1000th Point.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yes.
an amazing accomplishment, 3 years to get there. We are 5 wins away from Nick Paloma getting his 200th win as a coach too. So huge accomplishments in our girls basketball program. So thank you, and sorry to try to steal that.
That's all right, no, that's, yeah, 1,000, she's one of 5.
1 of 5, I think it was, yeah,
To get that, that should be celebrated, so.
in 3 years. And with games to go. Yeah, she's doing great.
1 to 5, we'll go, I'll ask her.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, it was a short meeting, so not a lot of reflection, but, one thing I guess that I think we should do as a board moving forward, or I would like to see, is I would like to see some teacher presentations about what teachers are doing in the schools. Or, maybe not, maybe, I don't know, or if there's some special thing that they're doing, whether, at different grade levels. So we have a,
27th, I believe that's what Brian
well,
is playing for his
and I know that's, but I mean,
Like,
there's a lot of different things and groups in the school system that I don't think as a board we know about.
mhm.
And I think different things like that, robotics, right? The mock trial stuff, just different things like that. So, different things like
She
that.
started it.
So, I think would be interesting as a board to
Yeah.
learn about.
Yeah, and we talked about trying to get more student presentations back too, so I think that could kind of, student/teacher presentations can bring some of that stuff in, and we've definitely got some cool things going on that you don't get in a smaller school, so.
Right.
I remember last year, didn't we have, in the new facility before it was new, everything was done, we had different teachers come in there, I remember, talking about the math and different
Yep.
things.
Yep. Yeah, so we've kind of run a lot of that through those building meetings, where it's the expectation on the principal to showcase a few different things going on there. And I think Brian has some cool stuff planned. I got to talk to him very briefly about it, but
Don't spoil
yeah,
No
it sounded
spoilers.
cool. It sounded pretty good.
it. Mr. Berger?
Was a short meeting. I really enjoyed in the last, well, we haven't had very many home games, but the few home games that we've had for basketball, there's some excitement there. There's a lot of people showing up, and the games are generally pretty good. And my kids' favorite is the duck.
Oh, check
Throw.
that.
Chuck the duck, Chuck the duck, which, Lauren, I guess, got the closest the last game. And I could tell something was funny, so I went down there to her, or over to her. She said, "Dad, I didn't have a brown duck." So it actually was her, when they went and got their ducks at the same time, it was actually her brother that threw that duck.
Oh, that's awesome.
So she split the money with him.
Oh,
It's true red right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's,
So, but that was a lot of fun, and it's been a nice environment.
and do you know about the basketball betties that are happening
Yes,
for the girls team?
awesome.
It was nice to look over and see all of it.
Yeah,
What a great
Yeah.
season for celebrating too.
it's fun.
Still my takeaway.
Still on the topic of activities for kids, where are we on the archery
You know, I
project?
need to touch base with Jared about that and see where we are. I know we've gotten some information on the curriculum for the PE classes and had some conversations with the PE teachers. That might be a little on pause while Nick coaches basketball.
Yeah,
I think you may try not to bug him about that until after basketball season too much, but let me see, because I know he'd given me an update before Christmas and it sounded like it was making progress
okay, good.
at that point. But I don't remember what it was, to be honest with you.
All right, thank you.
I'll go last. I missed you guys all in December. I was under the weather, as I know at least a few of us were. So I did not get to share on the school board conference. I want to try to keep the record for the meeting, so I won't go into that. It was a great conference. I was glad to see I read a lot of great discussion from the meeting. Unfortunately, the audio was not the best. I'm trying to go back and listen to the playback on, but anyway, to your guys's, talking youth programs, coaches, man, that's so cool to see. So many people in the community stepping up for these kiddos. I know mine was, they're already ready for, 5th, 6th football next year. They're talking about it. So it's true to see that, and I would also echo, good discussion with Indian Hills and the ball field. First and foremost, I don't want anybody to think this is trying to pit us versus them. This is the unfun part of this job, the business piece. And so we've got to do what's fair for both parties. Got a great partnership with them, and we want to keep that going. But just a little bit more clarity and clarification on that, I think, would be good to go. Because I got a ball player, and he said if we didn't get this figured out, I couldn't come home. So other than that,
We'll fix that for you.
it's been.
Fix it.
Can't believe it's 2025 already. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. May run around.